Marianne was quite subdued. "Oh, Elinor," she cried, "you have made me hate myself forever. How barbarous I have been to you. You, who have seemed to be only suffering for me." The tenderest caresses followed this confession. Marianne engaged never to speak of the affair to anyone with the least appearance of bitterness. She performed her promise of being discreet to admiration. The next morning brought a farther trial of it in a visit from their brother. "You have heard, I suppose," said he with great solemnity, as soon as he was seated, "of the very shocking discovery that took place under our roof yesterday." They all looked their assent. "Your sister," he continued, "has suffered dreadfully. Mrs. Ferrars too, poor Fanny. She has borne it all with the fortitude of an angel. She says she shall never think well of anybody again, and one cannot wonder at it after being so deceived. She had asked these young women to her house merely because she thought they deserved some attention. And now to be so rewarded. I wish with all my heart," said poor Fanny in her affectionate way, "that we had asked your sisters instead of them." Here he stopped to be thanked, which being done, he went on. "What poor Mrs. Ferrars suffered, when Fanny first broke it to her, is not to be described. She was quite in agony, and at last she determined to send for Edward. He came, but I am sorry to relate what ensued. All that Mrs. Ferrars could say to make him put an end to the engagement, assisted too, as you may well suppose, by my arguments and Fanny's entreaties, was of no avail. I never thought Edward so stubborn. His mother explained to him if he still persisted in this low connection, certain penury must attend the match. His own £2,000, she protested, should be his all. She would never see him again." Here Marianne, in an ecstasy of indignation, cried, "Gracious God! Can this be possible?" "Well may you wonder, Marianne," replied her brother. "Your exclamation is very natural." Marianne was going to retort, but she remembered her promises and forbore. "All this, however," he continued, "was urged in vain. Edward said very little, but what he did say was in the most determined manner. Nothing should prevail on him to give up his engagement, cost him what it might." Elinor's heart wrung for the feelings of Edward. "Well, sir," said Mrs. Jennings, "and how did it end?" "Edward is dismissed for ever from his mother's notice. He left her house yesterday, but where he is gone, or whether he is still in town, I do not know, for we, of course, can make no inquiry." "Poor young man!" cried Mrs. Jennings. "I am sure he should be very welcome to bed and board at my house, and so I would tell him if I could see him." Elinor's heart thanked her for such kindness towards Edward. "There is one thing more preparing against him," added John Dashwood, "which must be worse than all. His mother has determined, with a very natural kind of spirit, to settle that estate upon Robert immediately, which might have been Edward's, on proper conditions."